Yo, what's up, guys? And, as I'm sure you can all tell, this will be a tier list video. This has been asked for like the past 2 weeks, and I've been putting off doing it because I want to see how the meta shaped up. Because obviously, at the start of this wipe, we got Warlock finished, and I want to see kind of where Warlock fit in. We've got a ton of really big balance changes as well. Pretty heavy Bard nerfs, Barbarian nerfs, a lot of different things, and I kind of just want to see where everything would fit into the meta, and it's kind of calmed down a bit now. However, they have announced that we will get another patch Friday, so in 2 days. So I imagine there will be balance changes there because we're going to get a patch Friday, and then we're going to get leaderboards. Although I'm not actually sure if leaderboards are going to come out Friday. I think they are, right? Like I think that's what they said. Let me just double check the announcements. Uh, we also plan to start testing new leaderboard systems. The first iteration calculating rankings using rather the hotfix. Okay, so they say we'll start testing new leaderboard systems. The first iteration calculating rankings using a new method with the hotfix. So I don't know if that means whenever the patch comes out, the leaderboards will come out, or if like when the hotfix hits, we'll get the time that leaderboards coming out. I don't know. The way they're wording it sounds like it's gonna come out right away, but that's kind of weird. Who knows? But anyways, that is for the future. Right now, we are doing a tier list, and I'm going to do a character tier list and then a comp tier list. The comp tier list, honestly, I what one okay. Another reason I really didn't want to do like a video dedicated to a comp tier list is because I'm gonna be real with you guys. Not much has changed. The same comps that were good last wipe are good now, and before then, all the comps are like buff ball's still good, fighter ranger cleric still good. Like, and I know people like, oh, like, can you talk about comps that like aren't as good? Like, sure, I'm gonna try to do that this time. Like, talk about like sleeper comps. But for the most part, like the best comps are still the comps that like they're all the same because we have got balance changes. We haven't got anything crazy. Like I said, like all like the really good stuff is still really good. That none of it's really been noticeably nerfed. But anyways, start off with I'll do a character tier list. I don't think there are any characters that are incredibly broken. I think there are some that are pretty damn close. And keep in mind, I will be trying to do like I will be doing this in order of the placements. So I think the best character in the game is arguably Cleric right now. I think it's Cleric or Barbarian. So the issue is the reason I'm worried about putting Barbarian like at the front is because so the thing is, here's how we're gonna do this. Actually, yeah, here's how we're gonna do this. Now I'm not gonna put Barbarian here. We're going to do this based on individual character. We are not doing this based off of comp. I mean, obviously, like you have to kind of consider it. But the thing is, Barbarian outside of Buff Ball is not good. Inside of Buff Ball, Barbarian is obviously S tier. It's one of, if not the best characters in the game. Outside of Buff Ball, he's like a B tier character, right? Because like, outside, he has all of his weaknesses are very easy to exploit. He doesn't have all that like utility to get into fights. But and then the thing is you have to consider though. It's like yeah, that's outside of Buff Ball, but it's like how are you considering that? Because like every team has at least one support, right? Like if you run like Cleric, Wizard, Barb, like that's just a normal team comp. That's not even like that's like Buff Ball, but that's just like a normal team comp or anything. So it's hard to put Barb like accurately. So what I would do this is I'm going to put Barb in S tier, and I'm going to say this: he is S tier inside of Buff Ball. If you consider no Buff Ball, then he is B tier, right? That is where I will put this. That is what we will say. The reason being is inside of Buff Ball, Barb has he has the largest HP pool in the game base. He can stack all the stats he wants very freely, and he gets a very big benefit from all his stats. Obviously, Agi gives a ton of attack speed and move speed, which allows him to get into fights faster. Strength is giving him a ton of damage and a ton of HP, which makes him even tankier. He doesn't need a ton of PDR or MR because you have so much HP. Like if you're hitting 50% PDR, but you have 200 HP, it's like that's a lot of HP. I mean, that's if a fighter's only hitting 130 and they have 70% PDR, like it's the barb is still very very tanky. It's like if you have a very large HP pool, you don't need as much PDR to get a lot of effective HP out of that, right? And then you're much more threatening. You move much faster. You have much higher damage. Warmaul did receive a slight nerf. They did nerf the pen from 30% to 20%. However, that only really matters for fighting other barbarians that have tank built or fighting fighters. Like your Warmaul, like 30%, 20%, 10% pin doesn't matter. You're still gonna two tap a squishy with it, right? Like you're still headshotting for 180, body shotting for 120 with that thing. Like it's still gonna bot people. So Barbarian still very very strong. And the reason outside of buff ball he's super bad is because so Barbarian's weakness is obviously he has no healing on his own, and he has very low like chase down potential outside of throwing Franciscus. Franciscus are like one thing to consider. However, if you think of him just with a melee weapon, right? Like let's say like for example, let's say you run at someone and pull out a war maul. Like at some point, like sure you can run at them with your fist out, but when you pull your weapon out, you get a giant movement speed penalty. You literally get like it's like 55 or something. And the moment you pull it out, they will be able to outrun you 90% of the time. If they're another like if they're especially if they're a faster character, they will be able to get out of your range before you're able to swing it. You're gonna be swinging it very very slow. And overall, like his weaknesses are very exemplified in outside of Buff Ball. It's very easy to exploit. You can kite him very easily. It's very non-threatening. But inside of Buff Ball, which is almost the only time you're ever going to play him, S tier easily. Then, like I said, following that up, Cleric. Cleric can fit into literally every team comp in the game. Great support character, great offensive capabilities with Earthquake and Holy Strike, zone control, zone denial. Cleric basically can do anything right now, and everything he does, he's amazing at. As the only healing class in the game, once again, he's always going to be up here in this S tier. I think the character is just outright insane. Arguably, very arguably, and please nerf. Honestly think this is probably fine to put him up here. If I had to nerf one thing about Cleric, it would be Earthquake. Currently, if you watch any high level gameplay, and there are two teams with clerics on them, 90% of what the fight is just they're sitting there. Both teams are like playing a doorway on the other team. Nobody can push because if you push, you get caught in an earthquake, and if you caught in an earthquake, you either get pelted by like archer arrows or like spells or whatever it is, and it lasts for 6 seconds. You can't move in it because it does stupid damage. Just overall, really really dumb. There's a lot of different builds you can go. I see people literally buff balling Cleric. The Cleric goes like Smite and gets ignited, and with additional magic damage, you're hitting very, very hard. You have armor pen on your weapon. Your weapon has high base damage. It's just very, very good. Very, very versatile character. Can pretty much do everything, and everything he does, he's amazing at. Overall, insane character. Has pretty much always been the best character in the game. Continues to do that. Wizard, S tier character as well. Wizard did get hit a little bit. However, you could stack much more damage on them before. You can get like 4 additional magic, 4 true magic on weapons. You can get like 3 true magic on armor. Overall, Wizard's damage pretty much got increased across the board. Yes, they did increase their places that you can build MR. However, most characters aren't really reliably building that. Barbarian, which is the Wizard's best counter, just got Iron Will hit super hard. They almost have the MR on it, so our Barbarians aren't as tanky for MRs before. They actually take a good amount of damage to Wizard spells, especially if they're stacking true magic damage. Overall, Wizard's just very, very threatening. The only thing that really deals with Wizard right now this is funny. I'm putting all these characters up here. The only thing that really deals with Wizard right now is Ranger. Ranger is pretty much insane. And one of the main things about Ranger that makes them really, really good is Fighter really isn't in the meta. There aren't many people playing Fighter, and even the people that are playing Fighter with low PDR builds. You're only hitting 65% to like 70% on the high end, and if they're running Penetrating Shot, they nullify a lot of that, so they hit you very, very hard, especially if they're building any sort of armor pen in their build as well. So they're actually hitting you very, very hard, and if you look at the other 3 characters that are up here, Cleric, excuse me, I didn't mean to roll it, scroll that up. If you look at the other characters up here, Cleric, Wizard, Barb, the best character to deal with him, Ranger. Ranger's amazing. Ranger pairs, and he also pairs very, very well with Cleric. Ranger is one of the best pairs for Cleric, because if the Cleric holds an Earthquake, Ranger just gets free shots on whoever is in there. And if you catch somebody like a Barbarian or a Wizard, if you catch pretty much anyone in an Earthquake that's not a Fighter or a very tanky Cleric, and you have a Ranger that's geared, they're going to die. 100%. Just pretty stupid. Overall, the weapon damage increase directly benefited Ranger. They did lower damage, yes, but then they added back all that weapon damage. So basically, Ranger came out like a net gain. We got very slight nerfs to things like triple shot. People aren't really running anymore, but people are just running the quick shot that gives you 50% action speed. So they're still shooting very, very fast, doing a ton of damage. And if you play against a Ranger and you're a squishy class, you know what I mean when you say you know what I mean when I say they hurt, and they will literally one tap you. Right after this, I actually think Warlock's a pretty decent character. I don't think Warlock's bad. Actually, no, excuse me. But I think Bard. I'm putting Bard here. I'm going to put Bard here. I always forget about Bard. I think Bard's actually a pretty good character. I think his nerfs actually hit him pretty hard. He's still fine to play. However, he isn't just like a plug and play in every comp anymore. I don't think Bard is good as a solo support. I think ideally, if you play him, you want to pair him at least with a Cleric or a Wizard. Like, if you're buff balling and you play Barbarian, Wizard, Bard, or some combination of that, I think that's okay. Outside of that, I don't think Bard's super good in every comp anymore. Like, you're not just going to slap a Bard with, like, 2 damage dealers or 2 other random characters on. However, if you are playing Cleric, I think Bard automatically fits in there very well, because then, you just, once again, you're playing buff ball with anything, or you're just playing, just running double support. Like, you can run Cleric, Bard, Ranger, perfectly fine comp. There's a lot of things you can do. But like I said, overall his nerfs were pretty hard. Specifically, the harmonic shield, very very big nerf to that. Used to give around 10% PDR and MR. Now it's only going to give around 3 to 4%, which is a very 7% doesn't sound like 7% damage taken. It's like oh well you're only taking 7% more damage. Yeah, it's actually a very very big amount, especially when you're at the higher ranks. Also, they nerfed a bunch of their other songs as well as made it so it's a player songs. You need much more knowledge to like slot them all in and have access to them all. So Bard needs way more stats now. It's not as easy to get them. You need a ton more gear to play the character, and your songs just aren't as strong. Overall, the character has been nerfed. I think Bard's actually in a pretty okay spot right now. I think the one thing that needs to be toned down is movement speed. This class goes way too fast. Like Bards can literally hit movement speed cap by playing one of their songs, which is really dumb. Overall, the class isn't in the worst spot, not in the best spot. I would say the class is probably one of the more balanced characters in the game right now. And honestly, overall, I'm pretty happy with this. I think this is pretty acceptable. Oh, not Rogue. My next class is Warlock, which I'm sure many of you have been wondering about. I thought so. The thing is, obviously Warlock just got nerfed, right? We just nerfed Warlock, so for the healing that we nerfed their healing, and we nerfed some of the spell cost. I think is good. So I was playing Barbarian when Warlock first got finished, so I didn't really feel like how good it was because obviously I'm playing Barbarian, so MR or magic damage doesn't hurt me that much, and I could run them down easier. However, the one thing about Warlock that I found super super annoying was Warlocks basically never died. It was so hard to kill a Warlock because if you got on top of them, they pop Phantom Eyes, they run away, they're full health. And that was only as a Barbarian. If you look at the entire cast of characters, only one character can push a Warlock, and that's a Barbarian. Other than that, a Ranger has to try to insta-kill them, or a Wizard has to try to insta-kill them. Now it's not as bad because we did nerf healing a good bit, so it takes them slightly longer to heal up, and they can't just throw a Hydra down, Curse of Pain, sacrifice it, boom, full health. Doesn't really happen anymore. However, before, that's exactly what they were able to do. It was really, really stupid. However, now Warlock still has pretty solid play. When you get a ton of gear, you kind of play similar to a Wizard. Curse of Pain basically becomes a zap that heals you. Hellfire Hydra, very good area denial. Good for detecting stealth, although it doesn't really matter as much. Warlock's just an okay class. They're not excelling at anything. They're not really bad. The only thing I dislike about Warlock, and it's kind of my own personal bias, I don't like playing with Warlock. I never enjoy playing with Warlock because I feel like Warlock's a class that needs to be played around. Very, very often, Warlock spells kind of just grief your team. Like Hydra or Hellfire, for example, you throw them, and it's very easy for your teammates to just, okay, I can't run here now because there's a Hydra shooting, or I can't run here now because there's a Hellfire going through. So you can't do anything. I think Warlock works best with range characters. Specifically for the reasoning that they don't have to worry about trying to push up through all your random bullshit you're throwing out. They don't have to worry about getting shot by the Hydra or Hellfires or whatever it may be. Something that is actually pretty good is Warlock pairing with Bard or other Warlocks. I think running multiple Warlocks is probably one of their best combinations because you can heal off of each other, heal off each other's summons, all that type of stuff. Really really good combination. Then I think Fighter is probably around B tier. I don't think the B tier sounds low. I don't think Fighter's good. I think Fighter's just below okay. I think the main issue with Fighter is it's very very hard to play. In my opinion, it's if you play any of these characters above Fighter, you can play them. If you play them well, you're gonna get results, right? I think Fighter is one of those only characters that you have to go above and beyond, and you're not getting the amount of effort you have to put in is not the amount of effort amount of results you're gonna get out. If you're putting in 150% effort on Fighter, you're not gonna get 150% results. You're gonna get 75 to 80% results is how much you're gonna get for 150% effort. Whereas you look at a character like Barbarian, which is the other premier frontline character, Barbarian, you put in 50% effort, you're getting 200% results, right? Fighter is just a very, very, Fighter isn't bad, he's just not good, right? Which sounds stupid, but he's just in a weird spot. If you fight certain team comps and that don't have Warlocks, don't have Wizards, or, isn't playing, Damage Cleric, Fighter's good. If you run into Ranger teams or Bard teams that aren't really magic heavy damage, Fighter can be really good because you just run at them, you deal with them. However, Fighter still has the same weaknesses. Warlock and Wizard fold Fighter, Cleric can fold Fighter. You get caught in an earthquake or something and you're getting pelted by spells, Holy Strikes, Judgment, all of those slap Fighter. Warmaul Barbarian still pretty much clears you. And yes, I know about the hilt blocking tech where you stop the Warmaul. However, it is not reliable to do. I'm just going to let you guys know this now. It is not consistent to the point where you could call it a counter. The problem with it is getting into range of a barbarian is really, really hard to do. It's really hard to get that close to them without getting hit, and if you get hit once, you are never going to make it in range of them because of how much Warmaw slows you. Not to mention, they can always, like, there are ways to deal with it. Even if you're hilt blocking them, if they jump or crouch or whatever, they can get around your guard. Like, it's, and if all it takes is one time, if they hit you one time, you will not cover the distance to get back to them because the slow is too big, and they are going to obliterate you. And that is just how it is. Sucks, but what can you do? Other than that, Fighter doesn't pair up well against most of the characters. Like, if you look at the characters that can beat him, Wizard can beat him, Warlock can beat him, Barbarian can beat him, Cleric can beat him. He can deal with Bard, and he can deal with Ranger mostly. Other than that, though, it's like, I mean, yeah, and he could beat Rogue too, but who cares? Keck W Rogue. And other than that, it's like Fighter just doesn't really pair well up against the meta. I do think the one good comp, as always, that Fighter is good in is Fighter, Ranger, Cleric, and that's because Cleric and Ranger cover Fighter's weaknesses very, very well. And you kind of just need a frontline in that comp, and Barbarian doesn't really do it. Barbarian doesn't play a defensive frontline. Barbarian's more of an offensive frontline. Alright, and up to our last character, we have Rogue. Rogue is just kind of in a depressing spot. I mean, I'm sure, like, there are those of you out there that have been, like, one-tapped by a Rogue recently, and you're like, yeah, you're fucking trolling. So the thing about Rogue is, there's a ton of weapon damage available. That is right. You can get a ton of weapon damage, and Rogue can still one-tap characters. He can still one-tap Rangers, Wizards, Warlocks, Bards, hell, even Clerics sometimes. Problem is, though, outside of that gear, this character sucks. Like, it's absolutely useless. And even when you get the gear, it's very, very easy to play around a Rogue. The only time Rogue does anything is if you are just negligent and you don't check for them in Invis or whatever you may be. Also, let me just clarify if you've got to this point. This is a trios tier list. This is not for solos. It's not for solos. I don't play solos. Rogue and solos is great, but I don't play solos, really. But in trios, Rogue is just way too easy to reveal from stealth, and if he does get revealed that he's basically a useless character, he can't really do anything. However, with that being said, if a Rogue is allowed to play in stealth and he can get a flank on a team, he can cause havoc. He can literally, like, one-shot your backline into, like, a Ranger. If a Rogue manages to make it to a Ranger in a fight undetected, he will, like, two-tap the Ranger, and he can cause his team to single-handedly win the fight. However, that shouldn't realistically happen. There are way too many ways to reveal a Rogue, and if you see a team that's, like, playing kind of defensive and you only see two people sitting there, and one of the things you should be worried about, oh crap, am I getting invis played on by a Wizard? And two, okay, I only see two, now where's the Rogue hiding invis? And it's not like he can sit invis forever. They've made it so he has to take a perk for his invis to last longer than 20 seconds. So, it's very, very easy to play around Rogue invis. Very, very easy. And alright, I'm going to be honest with you guys. This video has gone on longer than I thought it would. So what I'm going to do is I will just make another video for a tier list. And I'll just do two separate videos. I'll do another one for a comp tier list. I didn't actually think this character tier list would take this long. But yeah, I will do another video for a comp tier list. And I'll probably just upload it tomorrow because honestly, I'm kind of tired right now. So that's a job for me later. But anyways, as always, if you guys feel like this tier list is accurate, inaccurate, don't like it, have some things you feel like you should change, or think I missed some things, feel free to let me know. Obviously, once again, this is all my opinion. It's not like I'm stating objective facts here, although most of these are objective facts. But anyways, if you enjoyed, feel free to like and comment, subscribe if you want. And until the next time, and by next time I mean tomorrow when I upload the tier list, or the team comp tier list. Alright, till then, peace.